Welcome to the Women Living Well After 50 podcast. I'm Sulon Carrick and I'm passionate about inspiring, motivating, supporting and informing women over 50 to embrace this exciting time of life. Health and wellness in mind, body and spirit are the foundations for living well, but there is so much more to a life well lived. Each week, through conversations with my guests, I'll be presenting topics that will help us all to live well and enjoy life. So join me as we discover new ways to become women living well after 50. Are you ready to start living? What are you waiting for? Let's get started. Welcome to another episode of the Women Living Well After 50 podcast. It's lovely to have you join me. Brodee Myers-Cooke was an award-winning journalist and magazine editor for over 30 years, working across leading lifestyle titles, including editorial director on Australia's leading food brand, taste.com.au. She was a career highlight was the award for Journalist of the Year at the Women in Media Awards. Now her beat is healthy aging. She launched Roadtrip to Younger magazine as a free digital magazine in late 2024 with a vision to cut through the hype, decode the science, to lay out the roadmap for growing younger as we grow older. Brodee says the destination is Joyspan, the longest, most pleasurable lifespan possible. Today, we're going to be talking about Jodie's background, what changed her thoughts about healthy aging, and what she's doing with the Road Trip to Younger magazine to help us all live a healthier lifestyle. So let's go and join the conversation. Welcome, Brodee. It's so lovely to have you join me on the Women Living Well After 50 podcast.
Oh, it's lovely to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Well, we've got a lot to talk about today, and we're only saying off air that we could go much longer than our normal episode, so which is good because there's always good to have more things to talk about than not enough. But what I'd like to do first is if you could just give us a little bit about your background and story, and then we can talk about what you're doing now.
Sure. So I started off in media, it was in the mid-90s. And I stayed there for nearly 30 years. My kind of area of expertise that I built up was around lifestyle journalism or service journalism. So I worked across, first of all, at Better Homes and Gardens, and then Gardening Australia. That was my first magazine editorship at in gardening, ABC Gardening Australia. And then from there I went to food, just a massive jump for me. But they needed somebody to fill in for a mat leave appointment. Loved food, absolutely loved it. Ended up staying there for a long time and spent about 10 years on taste.com.au, which most people in Australia know. It's the leading food title and brand. Launched taste.com.au magazine off a website, which it's usually the other way around. It's usually magazine and then a website. But that was one of the first examples of that, which was really successful. And I stayed there until exactly 1 year, really. Last year I left to do my own thing, which was something I'd always wanted to do, which was around health, longevity, aging, women. And I had that opportunity to finally kind of dive into my decades-long passion to talk about aging and healthy aging. That's kind of my background. I really miss my team. I loved working with the team, and now being a one-man show, I'm always looking around for an art director or a sub-editor. Didn't realize how much I'd miss them, but also miss the people and interaction. But I'm loving what I'm doing on Substack now. It's a fantastic platform. I know you're there too, Sue.
Yes.
It's a brilliant platform, and I think this is probably the way media is going to end up going in the future.
Yes, well, that's where I actually met you on the Substack platform, and I came across your Road Trip to Younger magazine, which I thoroughly enjoy. And you really have been what I love about it is you've just finished a series on strength, I think, on strength training, if I'm not mistaken. And now you've got one coming up on called Boss Your Bones After 50. Now, you've got a personal reason for that. So I thought we might talk about that, because that's your experience, which, is always important to hear. And then we can talk about the series if that works for you.
Yeah, sure. I'd love to. And by the way, I love your Substack too, Sue. Hits
Oh,
my
thank you.
inbox on Monday with my tip of the week. So yeah, thank you. Thank you for what you do there. Yeah, so it is a very personal story, and it's kind of had a number of phases. As far as bones goes, my mum had a number of health related aging issues when she was in her, bit younger than me now, actually, which really set me off thinking, I don't want that for my future. It was really heartbreaking seeing my mum have osteoporosis. She had diabetes, and early Alzheimer's was starting to kick in. So I kind of set off on my own little fun biohacking mission to make sure all those things didn't happen. And at the same time as working a 70-hour-a-week job. So, I was just kind of learning on the run and trying things out for fun. One thing I got wrong, though, and I didn't find out until my mid-50s, was I'd got osteoporosis all wrong. I thought it was more for women my mother's age. I thought if I was fit and healthy, there was no chance I could have osteoporosis. Well, one night I was in my mid-50s. I went for a little jog around the block and ended up landing on some soft ground, and it felt like the entire world did a 360. And it was actually not the world that did a 360. It was actually my ankle that did a 360, and it was a spiral fracture. Devastating injury. Like, anybody who thinks that, that doesn't sound too bad. It's any sort of fracture is terrible, though. And it left me completely debilitated for several months. And after that, after the plaster came off and the moon boot, they gave me an osteoporosis test, and I just thought, this is a little bit ridiculous. I didn't know anybody my age who had osteoporosis. And sure enough, I did have osteoporosis, and not a good case of it either. Especially my spine, my hip wasn't quite as bad, still very bad, and my wrist. You can see how tiny my wrist is. I was a sitting duck. That was very, very poor. So so I spent 4 years going for broke. Again, as much as I could study while I was managing a huge team and a big budget and all the other things. And my husband, luckily, this was probably one of my luckiest things. I call this my lucky break, by the way. But one of the luckiest things about my break was that I had the right husband, who is a phys ed masters, and he'd been bugging me for a long time going, honey, if you really want to be super healthy, you need to be in the weights room. And I don't know why I was resistant to this, because I just was. I think I was just much more of a step class cardio girl. I've just been playing I'd been playing mature age women's soccer with an over 40s team. I was more in that sort of camp than getting in a weights room with grunting men. Anyway, he formulated a program for me that was actually awesome. And from maybe not the first time I was there, but by the first couple of weeks, I just thought, this is bloody fabulous. Like, I just felt so alive. And do you do weight training, Sue, yourself?
Yes, although I do have a confession to make, because I'm actually I gained my PT and group fitness instructor qualifications in my 60s. And so I'm coming up to 68 next month. And I've been going to the physio because, like you, I love running, and that's my passion. So I've got a half marathon next month that I'm training for. And I've been going to the physio because my quads have been killing me. Anyway, we were chatting yesterday, and he's always on my case. Now, I make other people lift weights, but I've been lifting weights, but I'm not going as heavy as what I should. And so he really got on my case, because last year I had a scan and it came up that I've got the beginning of osteopenia. And he said, I would not have thought that with all that you do. And I do work out regularly. I do cardio. I do my weight training, probably not as heavy as what I should. And I do my, Pilates and flexibility work. So he was quite astounded and he said, we've got to change this. So
Yeah.
yes, I'm hearing you and I'm hearing him and me telling other people what to do,
Yeah.
but not taking the
Well,
advice myself, because it's a silent
yeah.
thing, isn't it? The
It's
osteoporosis.
It's the silent killer, really, and it's so insidious, and you've done very well, actually, Sue, to be 68 and be borderline osteopenia because, I mean, whether we like it or not and whether we can see it or not, feel it or not, our bones from the time we're 30, it's on a downward slope. And over that period of 50 to 60, you can lose up to 20% of your bone mass if you're not doing strength training. And you've come up with a very good insight here, and your doctor's a really good doctor, which is always good to have, which is you've got to go heavy. Which is kind of counterintuitive, isn't it? Like when I got my result from my endocrinologist, just had a really easy scan, by the way. Everybody go get a bone mineral density scan. You're crazy if you don't. And even if you're in your late 40s, not 30s, but if you're in your late 40s, you'll get a really good measure of where you are now. But anyway, my endocrinologist said, you look so fit, but it's not about fitness, it's all about strength. And he said, and I just got this really bad result, and he went, now I want you to go walking, stomping on concrete. And I was like, here I've been going up to the local sports field and doing laps on the
Yes,
grass.
yes,
And he's
yes,
like, no, you want that impact. And he said, get a skipping rope, all that high impact stuff. But also,
yes.
these studies that they've done, even you probably know this one, Sue, having worked in the field, is that Strong Women Stay Young study that they did at Yale University. It was way back in the 90s, and it was a book and everything. They had people in that study who were in their 90s who were picking up dumbbells for the first time and turning all their measures around. So yeah, I'm absolutely addicted now to
Yes.
weight training, and just I'm always changing it up. And David and I have just been working on, for my bone series that I'm doing, we've been working on a bone specific workout that's based on a Brisbane lady by the name of Belinda Beck, who is leading the
Right.
entire
Yes.
world
Yes.
on bone building exercise. So we're kind of building a little program on her kind
Oh,
of
that's
model.
great.
Yeah,
Another reason for people to subscribe to the Roadtrip for Younger magazine that you have, because we get that every week. You're going to be giving us the series of this, so I'll definitely be looking forward to that. I think before we move on, because I want to talk about a couple of other things, but the strength training has become more popular, but I think that a lot of women fear it because they think, oh, I can't lift that heavy. And if I'm honest with myself, the weights I'm lifting at the moment, I'm thinking you should be going up higher. You can lift stronger, but it's just that mental block that you go, oh, no, I don't think I can. But if you do try, even if you only get 1 or 2 reps out to start with, you've proven that you can do it. So I think that fear holds people back a lot, or they think, oh, I've got to be in there for hours on end trying to lift weights, when that's not the case either.
that's right. In fact, 20 minutes is enough and you're done. And I think the key thing is compound exercises. So
Yes.
so really being smart, and this is something that we did with because I worked with David, my husband, on the other Move Your Body series I did, where there was a big strength
Yeah.
training component. And one of the big things is that you really need to load up, but if you do things like, and this would be yours kind of thing, I'm sure you do them, deadlifts. and
Mm,
overhead presses. There's a bunch of exercises where you get so much for one, like a deadlift will probably work out, say, 5 different muscles, and you're
mm,
done and dusted in 3 minutes. The
mm,
thing is too that a lot of people don't understand the reps versus sets situation. So doing
mm.
3 sets, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 3 times,
Yes, yes.
but making sure that that 8th one is almost impossible to do, and that's
Mm,
just the perfect little kind of touchstone for
mm.
people. Am I
Yeah,
actually lifting enough? But not
yeah.
don't ever go too heavy, especially when you start. But as you get used to it, you'll get a sense of, okay, this one I won't be able to
I'm
do
ready.
8. This one
Yeah.
I can only do 8, and that's perfect. And then you just keep
Mm.
yourself on that edge the whole time, progressing.
Yes. Yeah. And look, if in doubt, there's always personal trainers at any of the gyms that you can even just book in. You don't have to go to them all the time. I've got a friend who sees one maybe once every couple of months, and she'll go through the program, make sure that's okay, and then she'll change it for the next couple of months. So, it doesn't have to break your budget
Oh,
to go and get that program.
yeah, I totally support people for the first, even for the first month, having a trainer right by them, getting their
Mm,
form right, and making sure, because the last thing that we want to do is, in an effort to, get stronger and healthier and younger, that we do ourselves an injury, which is, it really isn't that hard to do if you don't have the right form. But the form is easy to do if you know and you've got someone there training you.
that's
I think
right.
the other thing
That's right.
is, before you hit the weights room, I got my bone density scan by default because of my broken ankle, but definitely go and find out how your bones are doing before you go in there as well, because you
Mm,
want somebody who's a personal trainer who understands women and women's bones and all of that. Like, there's so many personal trainers, but ones that have a bit of expertise in that area, which most gyms will
mm,
have somebody who's an
mm.
expert in that area. That's the one to
Yeah,
go for. Yeah.
yeah. But getting that test first to see where you're at in terms of, and as you say, in your late 40s, rather than waiting and saying, oh, it's an older woman's or older person's condition. It won't be me. I'm young and fit, but that's not necessarily the case. So I'm really looking forward to the Boss Your Bones series, which will be coming out soon. So I'm very happy about that. But I'd like to sort of talk a little bit about how you've changed your career a little bit. You've gone from being the editor with all this the team behind you, now to producing the Roadtrip to Younger magazine. You call yourself the head hustler. What do you mean by that? Because I like that term.
Uh, well, that's kind of more what I do in my personal, well, I suppose it started in my personal life. As soon as I found out I had osteoporosis, I became an evangelist and drove
Mm,
everybody I knew crazy, and even people, that I didn't know, strangers at parties. But just hustling people and hassling people to have a bone density test is been something I've been really onto. And what's been really interesting, Sue, and I don't know, it's quite shocking really, is that I would say over half the people that I've hustled, and these are people in their 60s, that over half of them have found out that they've either got osteopenia or osteoporosis. And both my husband and my best friend had osteoporosis worse than I actually had myself. Um,
really?
on the flip side, and this has even made me more of a hustler and a hassler, is that all three of us have moved mostly out of the danger zone. None of us have
Okay.
osteoporosis in any part of our body now.
So
And
that's a good point. Sorry to just interrupt there, because I was going to ask you, can we change it? Can we reverse it? And you've just answered that. So obviously we can improve. It doesn't matter how bad we are, we can improve the situation.
you can. And this is what I find so frustrating. And it was one of the big triggers to me doing what I'm doing now, is that when I was looking into this whole area, there's so much misinformation. And even now, when I'm like, if I'm doing a special topic like I am now, bones, I just go in as if I know nothing with a beginner's mind. And the number of times, Sue, that I've been seeing sites that say it can't be reversed. You can improve it, but it can't be reversed, or you can't make your bones stronger. It's just such BS. I mean, I've seen it myself, but it doesn't even make sense from a biological point of view, because your bone cells are renewing. The bones that I'm sitting in here, 10 years time, every single cell will be rebuilt and renewed. So it's a living tissue. It's an organ, just like any other organ. And I think it's easy to think, oh, bones, they're so unyielding. And we think of
Yes.
we think of the
Yeah.
dinosaur bones at the local museum. But nothing could be further from the truth. They're actually very, very pliable, and they're almost like a friendly Labrador as far as training goes, which might sound crazy, but they'll be very responsive to what you do to them if you treat them and train them right.
Yes, and my physio actually sort of alluded to that, and I was a bit skeptical myself, but it does seem. But the other thing you brought up then, Brodee, is the misinformation with so many things on that we're looking at. So how do you hone in on what's the truth and what's fact and what's fiction?
I had no idea until I seriously, like, till a year ago, when I stopped and just thought, right, now this is where you get serious. It's not for you. You're going to be writing about it for other people. I'm still completely gobsmacked at how poor the information is. And it's got so many different kind of levels to it. You've got the complete lack of information in some regards about, and longevity science is a very new area. It's only been around
Mm,
since the late 20th century. So that's a big problem. You've got the lack of information. You've got the misinformation, which is rife. And one thing that really gets my goat is that a lot of this is because people have affiliations. It might be with a
yes,
supplement. Um,
yes.
and Jen Gunter from the Vagenda on Substacks raised this lately, that there's these people pushing turmeric supplements that are actually really dangerous for your liver. And they're people I
Mm,
know of who I thought were respected. So you've got that misinformation. You've also got misinformation from drug companies who'd like you to believe that maybe osteoporosis can never be solved, so you better get on to our particular medication.
mm,
And then you've got this big gap of information where there's not enough for women. But the one that actually drove me the hardest is the one around overly sciencey information that nobody could understand unless they were an expert. And some of these are in
mm,
mainstream books. And then you read the chapter on bones and you know everything about bones and osteoclasts and blasts and blah, blah, blah. And then that chapter ends. And it's like, well, what the hell am I meant to do here? The
mm,
practical part of the messaging is completely non-existent. So yeah,
mm.
that the information is a real issue in the whole of aging. It's probably the biggest
It
problem that we have.
is. It is. And
So how
it's
do I solve that? Sorry, that was your question, wasn't it? I
yeah,
went on a
yeah.
giant rant. So in a nutshell, how I deal with it is that I've identified way back a year ago, identified the experts and thought leaders that I trusted, and I go to them as my go-to first, and then I look at
Mm,
studies that are
mm,
peer-reviewed, non-observational, because they're always a bit dodgy. So I know what to look for in studies now, and so that's kind of my
mm,
trick. Yeah.
mm. Which is great because the offshoot of that is more learning for you and keeping your brain active as we're aging because you're, you know, delving in and diving down rabbit holes and learning more yourself and, sort of expanding your knowledge in a subject that you might have known a little bit about, but, you're really getting to become a bit of an expert on. So that's really good as well. So when you're producing your magazine, your road trip to younger, it's all about a healthy lifestyle with aging, and that can encompass so many things, doesn't it? So you've sort of done your moving, and now you're looking at bones, but what are some of the other things that people who want to read the magazine could expect?
Oh, that's such a good question. And I'm so glad you asked that because it's something that you and I haven't spoken about before. As part of that, finding my kind of 8 experts in the field, and some of them were women, I ended up thinking, well, if this is going to be a road trip, I need to have a compass. So I actually built, I spent quite a few, this was 6 months of developing Roadtrip to Younger, but one of the big things was building what I called a Joyspan compass. So I identified 8 things that actually move us in the right direction for all of our longevity, but not just longevity. It had to be, and not just health span or lifespan. I wanted it to be things that would take us to having a joyful, as many joyful decades as possible as well. So 8 things emerged, and you won't find any of these surprising. Brain, you just mentioned. um, Obviously, brain health. There's moving, there's food or nutrition, sleep, and I made calm a separate one because
Mm,
calm is like making sure your cortisol levels and your stress levels are down. Neurons, we already said brain, hormones, so healthy hormones and balancing mainly of hormones. I'm sure I've forgotten one, but the most important one that people often forget, this one's appearing in longitudinal studies that have been done for like decades and decades, is social connection. So
mm,
people who are lonely die younger, even if they're not that sad and lonely. You really need that, and we've seen that in the Blue Zones study as
mm,
well. So I identified those. So everything that I do on Road Trip to Younger fits into one of those buckets.
mm,
And I'm
mm.
actually writing a book on the side, so the Joyspan compass will be at the center of the content.
Oh, well, that's good. So we'll have you back on to discuss that when you've written the book. But I love that
Parabling it.
idea of, well, it doesn't matter. You will do it. I love the idea of joy span. I love that word because what's the point of living longer if we're not getting joy in our life as well and making the most of it? Because, you can just keep going on every day, but there's no fulfillment or enrichment in our lives. And just that little bit of joy, it can be just small things, but it can just really improve the quality of life, can't it?
Yeah, and the other thing is we often, and I totally agree with what you said there. The other thing is we often forget that joy when we're 90 will look a bit different to joy when we're 60. Joy when we're 90 will be able to sit on the floor with your great grandchildren and play with
Mm,
them, which is not a given. You have to work towards that joy.
yes, yes.
Even the joy of being able to move freely and not in pain. So, we see a lot of people who are probably considered healthy and in their 80s and 90s, but there's a lot of functionality that they've lost, and that kind of takes away
Mm,
joy. Or my dad, we lost our mum from diabetes related causes when I was 49, but my dad's still alive, but his joy is he's got dementia, and it's very low too.
mm,
So he's fit
mm.
still. He could probably still outrun me, but yeah, but his joy is low. So yeah, over time, this idea of joy has become more and more kind of potent, I think, uh,
Yes, yes.
and
Oh,
just
I
how
love the
important it is.
idea. I love the idea of the joy span compass because it encompasses every part of our life as well. Because you could bring that into back to your strength training and say, you need to find the joy in that, even though some people don't like it, but they have to realize the benefits and the long-term benefits. So that's got to bring you joy because you think, well, I'm doing something for my future self to make sure that I will still be enjoying my life in another 10 or 20 or 30 years, whatever I've got left. So each area of our life can have that joy span.
Yeah, true. There's nothing like kind of having that vision of yourself as a kick-ass granny to get you, pushing that weight a little higher.
Oh, that's right. Once grandchildren come along, because they don't see you as an age. And I know with my grandsons, I see them every week after school. I spend an afternoon with them, and they're, oh, come on, Nan, we're going to play soccer and we're going to do this. And, it's not sitting down. And they just expect you to be able to keep up with them. And that's that's an incentive as well, because you want to be part of it. You don't want to be sitting on the sidelines and thinking, oh, off you go and play. But also, I think you are being a bit of a role model to them as well,
Totally.
being that active in all areas of life, social connection, but physical activity, reading, expanding your mind, all those sort of things. It is beholden on us to be role models for our children and grandchildren.
Yeah, and also for our peer group, I think too.
Yes,
You
yes,
know,
yeah,
just to say, look, because some people are starting to say, "Oh, I'm going to retire. I'm not going to do anything." I'm like, that's the worst thing you can do. We should actually ban the word retire. It sounds like
yes.
you're not
Well,
taking aging
it,
lying down. Your
no,
grandsons will remember that forever.
yeah. Well, they're coming to watch me run. I run with their mum. And so they'll
Oh,
say, how
brilliant.
was your run, Nan? And, so it's just Nan goes running. That's
I
just part
love
of the
that.
way it is. But the other thing is, I always said to myself, I might retire from work, but I'm not retiring from life. And I think that's the difference as well. So many people out there are going, oh, I'm retired. I've got to live a quiet life. And look, that might be fine for them. And I have to respect what is good,
Yes.
what people feel is right for them. But if you want to live a fulfilled and long life, you've got to be active. You've got to keep your functional fitness and just keep broadening your horizons. And that's where you find a lot of joy. Some days I'm happy not to do anything and to be quiet and read a book and just have my own time.
Mm.
And that's important. But you don't cut yourself off from everything. Some people go, oh, I can't wait till I'm retired and I can do nothing. And I think, oh, I would last about 2 hours and then but that's me.
Exactly. Your body kind of takes some messages around you being in a Jason recliner for hours on end that maybe you've kind of not got much more to do in your life, and
Mm,
it
mm.
does send the wrong message. So yeah, the more active you can be, get a couch that's a lot lower than you're comfortable getting out of,
Yes, yeah.
setting yourself
You'll be
up for.
practicing your sit to stand there, getting out of the couch. So,
Yeah,
but they're
totally.
all movements that, come back to the strength training and that even your body weight, doing things like reaching and bending down, your balance, all those sort of things we should be doing it to help us just not be these gymnasium stars, but to be
Yeah,
fit and healthy and be able to cope with daily life when we get older. Because I don't
yeah.
want to be a burden on anybody. I want to be as independent as I can for as long as I can. So I
Yes,
think it's
totally.
important.
Yeah.
But look, we're sort of coming towards the end of our interview, Brodee, and I will be having you on again because there's so much more we can talk about. But before we go, is there anything in particular that you want to leave us with, or an important point that you want to make that we haven't actually probably raised yet? Or
I actually just think that one thing that I'd love to see with aging is people to, and this is why I launched Roadtrip to Younger, is people to think about aging as an adventure, and
mm,
to really kind of embrace it as something that can be fun. I think um, the road trip metaphor works in a lot of ways. One way is that you're very practical on a road trip. Like only a fairly crazy person wouldn't be able to do a road trip. You get in the car,
mm,
you know where you're going at the start of the day. You've kind of got a bit of a plan of where you'll have lunch and what you'll have, and then you've got an end point. You know where your destination is, and it's a mix of practical but also fun. And you're going to learn
mm,
things along the way, see new things, find out things about yourself. um, when I kind of thought this is where I wanted to go, it just made a bit of sense. But as time's gone on, just more and more metaphors and more reasons why this works. And I think probably my favorite is the mindset of a road tripper. If you think about it, at the end of a day as a road tripper, you could have blown a tire, you might have gone the wrong way for 3 hours. You don't sit there kind of bashing yourself up. You kind of just think, oh, that's life on the road. You
mm,
don't
mm.
don't kind of waste time with self-blame and self-judgment. So I think if you think, well, would I go into a meltdown about myself if I was on a road trip and bad things happen? No. So you just move on and just think, oh, tomorrow's a new day. We'll make up some ground maybe, or maybe we don't even care. We'll just get back on the road. And I just feel like I love the metaphor of two hands on the wheel, eyes on the horizon, and foot on the gas. And I think that's a good metaphor for aging, I think.
Yeah, I think it's a great metaphor. And so, look, I'll be sharing all the links with everyone so they can find you and to really come and find you on Substack, in particular with your Roadtrip to Younger magazine. But before you go, Brodee, I have a question which you may have probably answered, but we'll ask it anyway. It's, what does being a woman living well after 50 mean to you?
I feel like for me, it means being a woman of any age living well. I feel like I want to feel like I don't like anti-aging or anything like that, but I just feel like being ageless and feeling that levity of almost feeling like my best years are in front of me and not behind me.
That's lovely. And I
I don't know.
can,
Is that does that make sense? I'm not sure.
yes, it does, because I think that way as well. I look at my birth certificate and I think, oh, well, that's obviously a mistake, because even though it says I'm going to be 68 in a month,
I
I
can't. Well, I
don't
don't
even
blame you. You just have to.
identify, I can't identify with an age, if you know what I mean. And I welcome my 50s and I've welcomed my 60s. It's been wonderful. And I look forward to turning 70 in 2 years, but again, I think it's just that when we were growing up, 70 was really an old person. But
Yeah.
today, the world's still open to us. And I think that's wonderful. So I totally understand where you're coming from, because I feel the same way.
And you look amazing, so you do not.
Oh,
Nobody would guess you were 68. So whatever you're thinking, it's working on your entire body.
well, thank you for that. I
You're
have
doing
to
it.
admit, some days I feel I'm 108, and we all do that, but it's your mindset, as you say. And I just don't, age just doesn't compute. I want to try something, I'll give it a go. And I think it's
Great.
just your mindset, as you said. So, yeah.
Well,
So
thank you for
anyway,
having me.
Brodee,
I
well,
loved
it's been a
having this chat with
pleasure.
you.
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah.
So we will definitely do it again. And yeah, and good luck with your Boss Your Bones After 50 series. I'm really looking forward to that. I'll
We've
be
just
taking
done one.
notes, doing it.
We've only done one so far, but the next one comes out later this week. So I'm
Yes,
sharing all the
yes. So,
habits I've started since I was 50 and now have at
oh, that's a
64.
good idea. Very good.
Bone
Okay.
bone
All
friendly.
right. Yeah.
Thanks
Okay.
again
Well, I
for
look
having me,
forward to
Sue.
that. No
Thanks
problem. Thanks
again.
for joining me. Bye. Well, I thoroughly enjoyed chatting with Brodee Myers-Cooke today. We did touch a lot on osteoporosis and bone health, and but we also talked about her Road Trip to Younger magazine, finding your Joyspan, making the most of our life, and the 8 things that move us into longevity. So I hope you've enjoyed the conversation that I had with Brodee today. I'm sure that your friends will, so make sure you share it with them. I've had my bone density test, but I'm off to lift some heavier weights than what I have been doing. So that's the challenge for you as well. So until next time, remember to live well, enjoy life, and most of all, be a woman living life your way. Bye for now.